D-Day and the days after D-Day. So you're going to tell us a little bit about what you were just talking about. Some of the June 6th, we're coming up on the 60th anniversary of June 6th. So it's June 1st right now, 2004. We're coming up on the 60th anniversary. Prior to June 6th, you had received a letter.
It's an authentic letter.
Authentic letter. Tell us a little bit about where you were when you got that letter. And
we were out in the English Channel, right off of out of Southampton, and that was one of the loading places where we picked up all the tanks and ambulances and a bunch of medics, army medics, and everybody got one of these letters. It was from Ike, soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force. And everybody knows about this letter, but I have the original here.
how does he sign off?
Good luck, let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. That's the way the Allied forces went all the way, and so did Russia. There was no equivocating, no sidebar agreements with anybody. That's why you see movies of the Russian army in Berlin firing point blank into the buildings.
Okay, so you get that letter. What was the date of that letter when you got it? You got it on June 5th maybe, or June 4th? How many days?
Oh, it must have been one day before.
Right, okay, so one day before, and then you kind of have an idea that something's up?
Yeah. Keep in mind, most of us were 19 years old.
Right.
Very young, never in a battle. But when we saw the Texas and I think the Arkansas firing point blank into France with those big guns they had aboard, we knew this was a real McCoy. So the original plan was to go on the 5th, but there was a storm brewing, and they waited till the 6th. And in order to get in line to unload our men, we did a circle out in right off of France, and we waited our turn to unload the soldiers we had aboard. And
how many soldiers did you say you had?
we must have had a couple of hundred.
And they were let out
each.
They were let out on the little dinghy boats or whatever you call them?
Yeah, they went down a Jacob's ladder. It's a rope ladder, and into small boats, LCVPs, or Higgins boats.
Was that Higgins guy? Was he from New Orleans? Did we see him?
Yeah, right.
Right. That's when we went to
There's a museum down
the
there.
Higgins Museum, right.
So as soon as we got rid of all our guys, we were ready to go back to England and do the same thing again. Load up with ambulances, tanks, jeeps, all sorts of vehicles.
And what beach did you actually approach when that first June 6th day?
You know, we couldn't tell. Nobody told us anything. At least nobody told a 19-year-old guy anything, but I assume we were in Omaha or Utah. Those were the two American beaches. And we never got on the beach because the beach was loaded with LCMs. Those are mechanized landing craft that could take one whole tank up on the beach. But the Germans had our number there and sank all of them along the beach. So LSTs I never saw one LST get up on the beach. We stayed out there unloaded, and they finally built a ramp out there that was destroyed during a storm about 15 days after D-Day, that we could unload on this pontoons. The pontoons were connected, and they could take ships and unload them there through the bow doors onto the pontoons. But the pontoons were blown away during what I said was a storm about 15 days after D-Day.
So on June 6th, though, you're coming in on the ship, and what do you see? What do you hear? What's like?
Well, we saw the Texas and the Arizona or Arkansas battle wagons out in the English Channel, shooting onto the beach. Hopefully, they would make the beach safe for the soldiers charging up the beach, but they didn't.
And you see clouds of smoke. I mean, what do you?
Yeah, well, when one of those big guns off a battle wagon shoots, there's a big blaze of fire coming out of them. But in later times, we saw that they didn't knock out the pillboxes that the Germans were hiding in, and strafing the beach with all these Americans. And I assume that it was very much like this along Sword Beach, which was the British beach land.
Okay, so on June 6th, you don't hit the beach. You send up a couple hundred troops up there, and then y'all turn back.
Yeah, we went back to England, and when we got back, our particular group was medics, and we got a notice from a ship in the bay back in England that the medics were tired of helping the wounded that the other ships had taken aboard off the beach. So we loaded up on small boats and went over and helped other ships with their wounded. And the minute I got aboard this ship and went down in the tank deck where the doctors were operating, they were sawing a man's leg off. I immediately got sick. I didn't throw up or anything, but I went back up topside and recovered my senses and went back down and started patching up the guys who were down there that they picked up off the beach. And it was quite a scene. There were all sorts of Americans, Germans. There was even a Mongolian there that had been conscripted from someplace and put as a member of the workforce building what was called the wall that they hoped would keep the Americans from landing on the beach.
And how many troops were down there when you were in the...
The wounded must have been 150 or 175. And I repaired a bunch of those wounded guys. One had a belly wound and his gut was sticking out about 6 inches. And there wasn't much I knew to do except throw a bandage on it and shove the gut back. And hopefully somebody back in England in a hospital knew how to repair it, because I didn't. So we stayed down there 8 hours or so, helping the pharmacist mates off of whatever that ship was, another LST. And we hung around in England till June the 15th.
So the date when you went back was maybe June 7th or June 8th or something when you got...
No, the 15th.
No, when you went back on the small ship, you were saying to help with the wounded.
Oh yeah, that was about the 7th or 8th.
Okay, all right.
It took us that long to get back. But we loaded up in England, Southampton or one of those big ports. Probably was Southampton. And then we went back on the 15th, went back to the British beach, which was the most eastern part of Normandy. And the Germans supposedly were about 8 miles away, and the British hadn't moved off the beach. I don't know.
That was Sword Beach?
Sword.
All right, so you're coming in there on the 15th, and what happens when you guys are approaching the beach?
Well, we're on the beach.
So you're on the beach, okay.
And we unloaded what we intended to unload, which was tanks, ambulances, and equipment of all sorts. And all of a sudden, the ship next to us got hit by one of the German 88s, we thought. We didn't know for sure. And killed about 8 men with its first shot. And they were in the wheelhouse, and the skipper was there, and all the guys. But, we stayed there on the beach because the tide had pushed us way up on the beach, and we had to wait till the tide came back and lifted us back off of the beach. We cranked up our winch that we let go 200, 300 300 yards out from the beach. And that helped us be pulled off the beach. I guess we were there about 8 hours. We got hit, blew a hole near the bow door. LSTs were made with 2 holes, I think. And we were still afloat. It didn't damage us. But when I got back to England, we got back to England, I went up topside and picked up a bunch of shrapnel pieces that I think I still have. Little bitty pieces.
Y'all went into town or just got off the ship and went into a party?
Got off on the dock, as I recall.
Do you think you'll remember the dock when you see it?
No.
Won't remember it? What year? So that was already 45, or was it already now 46? When was it that y'all came through here?
45.
45, after the war ended, 45.
Yeah.
And then did y'all stay here for a couple days, or?
I think so. And then we came back. We picked up a pilot, working on the twine. Somebody who knew the sand. You have to be careful when you go on the Mississippi, because there are sandbars all through there.
Y'all were going up, right?
Yeah, we went up, and then we came back down.
Oh, this was on the way back down?
Yeah.
Okay. Where was your final destination on that? Was it Mobile?
Back to New Orleans.
New Orleans?
And went into dry dock.
And then that was the end of it? That was the last time you were on the LST?
Yeah.
And then
But I lived on the base there for a while. And they called me in one day and said, "Where do you live?" I said, "Dallas." He said, "How in Fort Worth suit you?" I said, "Oh man, send me there."
Right. And what did you do in Fort Worth?
I was a Red Cross gray lady.
Hey, Dad, so tell us the first time you got on the LST.
It was in Brooklyn. It was in a port. It was called 92. And I was sick about leaving the country. After we got on the ship, everybody was given life jackets. That didn't give us a good feeling, because we knew that the subs were out there right off the coast sinking LSTs and anything else that would float.
Whose subs were those?
Those were German subs.
German subs?
U-boats. But nothing happened. We left and went up to Newfoundland. And from Newfoundland, we took a northern route. Ran into a bunch of icebergs up there. They told us that was to avoid the subs. And it was clear sailing for about a week. And then one night, they rang general quarters. 2 of the ships in the convoy were hit by the subs and were burning like a son of a bitch. And we stayed topside and watched the flames go out. We thought, well, that's nice. The reason they went out, the ships went down into the ocean.
How many ships were in the convoy?
Oh, there must have been 50.
2 out of 50 got hit?
Yeah. And They told us they wouldn't pick up any survivors because subs would be out there picking us up. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Would have been kind of difficult to survive in that ice water too, wouldn't it?
yeah, Newfoundland,
Right.
pretty cold. Icebergs were floating around.
And your LST could hit an iceberg and it wouldn't affect the ship. The ship was just go right through it.
Yeah, there weren't icebergs that we sailed into, but it was a horrifying experience. When we got back below decks, we saw some of the guys never came topside, and they didn't realize that there was general quarters, or they couldn't hear it. And general quarters means just that. Everybody goes topside, even the skipper. But we had our life jackets on. We felt pretty secure after the other two ships quit burning. We didn't realize what it was. Then we kept in the convoy, went all the way to Milford Haven, Wales. And, that was a nice experience.
How old were you then?
I was still 18.
18 years old. And when you first saw that big ship, that LST, what was your impression of that?
It was bigger than I had thought, but I read up on it. It was his longest destroyer, 327 feet as I recall. And that made me feel good.
And you had tanks loaded on there?
We had tanks, ambulances, and everything. So we never did unload them in England, I don't think. From there, from Milford Haven, we went down to Plymouth, and they gave us liberty to go to Plymouth, England. And in Plymouth, it was a vulnerable city. The Germans could shoot all the way across the channel, as I recall. And I remember one stat. There were 53 theaters in Plymouth before the war. And after all the shelling, there were only 3 left. And we went into the city. It was a quaint little English town. That's where the Pilgrims, I think, landed in Plymouth Rock when they first came to the United States. And it was an interesting experience. I don't think I was afraid much, but I was young and dumb. The older I got, the more insecure I got. Later on, we landed from Plymouth. We got back on the ship after Liberty and went to a naval gas warfare institute up there, and we were supposed to learn all about gas, and I guess we did. They put us in in there and let the gas go, and about 2 minutes later, you left, and everybody's coughing, and we got out of there. It was just an experience that we tell our grandchildren and children about.
So did you have gas masks on, or what do you mean?
Yeah, we were equipped with gas masks. And when they turned the gas on, it was mustard gas, which is kind of deadly if you breathe that stuff.
Uh-huh.
It was widely used during World War I. Germans used it. A lot of Americans were gassed. I think Warren Lee's dad, who lived next door to the store, his dad was a veteran, was gassed during the war. He later on committed suicide by drinking something.
Were you drafted into the Navy?
Yes.
How did that all come about?
I went up to the draft board and they ran us through a physical. When the physical was over, they said, "Do you want to go in to the Navy or Army?" I said, "I'll take the Navy," because, I knew it would be clean and I could be a medic, like I knew something. And they said, "Okay, you're in the Navy, but would you like to go into the Marines? It's a part of the Navy." I said, "No, thank you." So I stayed in the Navy and was sent right away to San Diego, which was a training base then. It's no longer in existence. I tried to go there once.
Right. Balboa Park?
Yeah, right. And they wouldn't let us in.
Right.
They thought we were Al-Qaeda, I think.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know what they thought.
So you had gotten a letter from the draft board saying it's time for you to come in? That's
Yes.
how it happened? You received that letter? And
About 4 months after I was 18.
right.
So they gave me a break there. And it was rather nice. And I stayed in school. I was at SMU.
For one semester or something?
Yeah, it was a short semester.
Uh-huh.